reason I'm so personally disappointed in Deion is I thought he was there for a movement.
So?
Not for money. Meaning, Deion Sanders, the coach of Jackson State, I foresaw a situation where Deion would hire other coaches, other retired black NFL greats to coach other HBCUs. In doing so, you attract our top tier high school athletes to come to HBCU.
Maybe.
Stay with me.
Eddie George is at Tennessee State.
Stay with me. Football and back. You know, like I know, if you got top tier NFL greats coaching HBCUs, the athletes are coming just like they was coming for Deion. He showed you, Charlamagne.
Deion, though.
He showed
Dr.
you.
Umar.
And his other one's just as
one
great.
of the most famous people ever.
And his other one's just as great. So listen.
Eddie George at Tennessee State.
That's one person. We talking about a system, not an individual. So Deion and these other coaches bring all these athletes from high school to play football, basketball, so forth. The revenue of the HBCU goes up, Envy. As a result of the revenue going up, Charlamagne, the schools got more money. They don't have to subject themselves to closure. They don't have to subject themselves to being dependent on white money. You got HBCUs at risk of being closed. I read something that said almost a half of them. A half may not survive the decade. So this was bigger than football. This was about the survival of the HBCU.
It's bigger than Deion,
especially
though, Dr. Umar.
no,
Yes,
no,
it is. I think
no. Stop trying
you're blaming an individual.
Stop trying to give celebrities a pass, Charlamagne.
No, you're blaming an individual
I'm not
instead of talking
blaming
about
him.
the issue.
I'm blaming black men for not being men.
But you know what?
I'm blaming us for not being men. That was an unmanly move.
Can you admit one thing?
Why can't we just say, thank you, Deion? Thank you for what you did in the 2 years that you represented HBCUs. You didn't have to. You were making more money on your TV show that you only worked 22, 23 weeks out the year. Why can't we just say thank you? For 2 years, this man has been down in Jackson, Mississippi. And for 2 years, we haven't said a word about what he was doing while he was doing it. We haven't talked about the positive change that he's made to the culture down there while it was being done. We didn't say, well, Jackson State needs to find a way to keep Deion Sanders, so they should give him more money. We didn't say that the SWAC, which is the conference that he was coaching in, which is the conference that Jackson State belongs to, should figure out a way to keep Deion there. You know what we waited for? We waited for him to do something that we think is wrong. So here's my thing. All of this comes down to expectations. Expectations that were never voiced prior to this man taking another job at a Power 5 school, which, by the way, he said that he was going to do from the very jump. All right? From the very jump. And he had the option to do it, but he actually bypassed coaching at his alma mater to coach at Jackson State. Now let's talk about the odds that he had to overcome. Let's talk about some of the things that were going on that this man had to overcome. Ladies and gentlemen, there were times that the water system did not work in that area. There were times that Deion Sanders had to take baths in the pool. There were times that the power would just go out. Remember, Mississippi is probably the poorest state in the country. While Brett Favre is stealing money from there, from those very poor people. The power would just go out. They're in the locker room during halftime and the power would just go out. Nobody wants to talk about the fact that these things were happening. Nobody wants to talk about the fact that these kids were basically living in poverty until Deion came. Nobody wants to talk about the fact that there's 60,000 people coming to games just to see Deion Sanders, really. and the ticket sales are saying 28,000. So somebody's stealing money. Nobody's talking about any of this shit, right? And this is our thing. Some of these same people who come out tell us not to idolize celebrities and not to expect so much from celebrities, but then in these situations we expect celebrities to be activists. Ladies and gentlemen, we expect Deion Sanders, who is a football player, former football player, and who became a football coach and had to overcome all of this stuff to turn that program into a winner his very first year. And we expected him to now become an activist. Now, here's the thing. In any other situation, that might hold a little bit of validity. But at what point do you say, yo, I also have to do what's best for me? All right? Because for those of you who don't know, he's also brought some of those black coaches from the SWAC, which is the conference that he coached in. He's bringing them to Colorado to make some real money, which is going to open up more spaces for other black coaches to come in, offensive coordinators, so on and so forth. So exactly what are we talking about here, ladies and gentlemen? When we sit back, now we are sitting back asking this man who never said anything about wanting to be an activist and who never said anything about none of that stuff. We're sitting back and we're asking this man to be something that we expect him to be. Oh, I thought it was going to be a movement. Well, it wasn't. But instead of saying, thank you for the 2 years that you brought notoriety, that you brought income to these schools, that you brought all of these different things to this school, like winning culture, turning it around. Instead of saying, thank you for the time that you gave to this HBCU, what do you want to say? Oh, no, you fucking up. And that's the problem with our culture. It's all about our expectations and how we think somebody is supposed to live life, and we sit back and we tell them, nah, you fucked up. But while they were doing all of that good shit, we wasn't saying shit. Now you just forgot the fact that the whole culture has changed at the HBCUs. And y'all have to keep in mind that we're talking about black institutions with black deans and people who are black in the boosters or whatever the case may be. They can now, the blueprint has already been laid for those people. We're not talking about white systems or whatever the case may be. The blueprint has already been made. You show these people the money. You already see that on the back end, that money is going to be there when you bring a Ray Lewis in, when you bring maybe a Keyshawn Johnson in, or whatever the case may be. People who are known for playing football at the highest level, you pay them the money, and on the back end, you're going to get it back and then some. People who are interested in being coaches for the first time, who are high-level football players, you bring those people in rather than hiring the son of the old person who was there before him to keep the legacy going. And he might not be a good coach at all, but he's just somebody's son. We got to do better. This is how we got to do better. We can't keep expecting people to give up their whole life to be what we think they should be. To say, hey man, sacrifice everything in order to appease all of your people. Show off.